Hey everyone, I just thought I'd make this video to read 5 different sci-fi poems that I wrote. I'm sorry if I sound a bit nervous. I usually am nervous in front of a camera. I mean, I guess I thought I'd make this video to read some poems with the sci-fi sort of theme. So the first one that I'm going to read is The Stranger, and it's basically told from the perspective. Well, I don't think I want to give it away. I'll just read it and you'll try to figure it out. So I have them on my computer right now, and I just thought it'd be easier that way instead of having to write them all down. I don't have a printer, so it's not like I have a choice. So enough of me blabbering. Let's just read The Stranger. I watch the stars so very far, far away in outer space. While I'm stuck here in this house, I have to leave this place. The bad men have given up, trying to find me, and have fled. And yet, they do not know that I am right here in this bed, in a small house in a small town, looking just like one of them. And yet, no one knows the truth, that I am not exactly their friend. I may be safe for now, but I soon may be in danger. And while I now live amongst them, I am still very much a stranger. So that was the first poem. That one was called The Stranger. And I'm going to read the second poem if I can find it on here. Again, I had these written down on my computer, so I saved it to WordPad, so that's why they're like this. Here, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Alright, so the second poem is called Lift. And it's just one word, lift. And let me read. It is pitch black out in the dead of night when suddenly there is a blinding light. I look up confused as I can only stare, and then I am lifted high in the air. Colorful lights surround me, then darkness. I feel needles poking at me with sharpness. I see them, their eyes I can never forget. Their skin is gray, cold, and wet. They finish up, and then I instantly fall, landing on the ground, remembering all. Yet, despite being gone for what felt like a week, here it has only been seconds, my future bleak. It is still night out, the same time and the same day. As I lay on the ground, I feel my brain decay. So, that second poem is a little more dark, but it has to be dark for a reason. As you may have noticed, the first two poems that I just read to you involve around aliens. So this next poem is going to be a little different. What the heck, why isn't this working? There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and read this next poem if I can find it. I don't know if I am going the right way. Here we go. So this next poem is called The Time Traveler. And I think the title is pretty much self-explanatory unlike the first two ones, so let me read that as well. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, through the dense forests and fields, there was once a very old man named Albert Shields. He was a tall, strong man of about 45 years old. He gathered up for the firewood as he prepared for the cold. The upcoming winter was to be grueling and long, as predicted by the newspapers, yet Al hoped they were wrong. Still he gathered the remains of the wood and scrap metal. He then lumbered back inside to the whistling of the tea kettle. His wife was there waiting, petting Freddie the husky. Before getting back to knitting, the air thick and musty, Al then stalked up the wood, smiling confidently at his wife, cutting the ropes from the pile with his hunting knife. Al's wife, Mary, was now in the kitchen, gradually pouring 2 cups of tea, while Al carefully set some wood planks in the fireplace, somewhat anxiously. Mary asked, "How is everything, dear?" while Al sat down on the wooden chest. He quickly became disoriented and said, "I think I need to rest." He slowly walked towards the bedroom when suddenly he froze at the doorway. Closing his eyes, he heard a man talking, but could not register what he was saying. Then there were more sounds, getting louder, followed by more men shouting his name. At the shouts, Al instantly opened his eyes and saw that everything was not the same. He was leaning against a brick wall outside of a bar in the big city. 3 men were standing in front of him, yet looked upon Al in pity. Al stood there extremely confused as he looked around here and there. The skyscrapers and various buildings towered over him everywhere. There were strange metallic machines rolling along the busy, dirty streets. The bright flashing lights and loud music came with more strange noise and beats. The 3 men stared at Al, agitated, until one of them again said his name, but the other 2 men insisted to the first that this was useless and declared Al insane. The men walked away while Al stood there as other people walked by with some laughing. At that moment, Al noticed that everyone carried tiny devices with more lights flashing. Only then, at that moment, did Al also realize that his clothes were different as well. He was now wearing a white polo t-shirt and khaki pants with a brown belt. This confused Al just as much, if not more, than the technology and the people all around, for this indicated that he had been here before, but he could not remember when or how. Just then, a woman quickly approached him, asking Al, what happened? All of it bizarre. Al then asked, "How do you know my name?" Confused, the woman said, you told us at the bar?" With this answer, Al now knew for certain that he had indeed been here before, but how or why was what was even stranger, a great mystery, and he wanted to learn more. But then, at that second, Al felt dizzy again, when suddenly he fainted, falling on his back, while the woman screamed, then called out his name, as everything around him went black. The woman was screaming repeatedly, now shouting his name in desperation, and, for what felt like a matter of minutes, Al came to, but was now in the kitchen. There, leaning over him, was his wife, Mary. "You're awake," she sobbed in relief. Al asked her, "What happened? Where am I?" Again, Al looked around in disbelief. Mary then explained, "You passed out again. You were unconscious for almost 2 hours," to which Al could only stare back at her. Outside, there was thunder and rain showers. As Al slowly sat up, Mary asked him, "Who were you talking to?" now shivering. To which Al replied, "I don't know." He could not remember anything. And while Al could not remember anything that had happened at all, at the same time, there was still one thing that he now suddenly recalled. He could now remember actually seeing a number flashing in his head, just a split second before he passed out, before his wife thought he was dead. Al then began to realize, much to his shock, that this strange experience was nothing new, yet because he could not remember anything, no one, not even Al himself, knew the truth. And so, back at his home in eastern Kentucky, in 1886, Al explained what he had seen. Mary asked, "Where were you? What was the number?" To which Al replied, "New York City, 2016. So, that's the time traveler. I know it's obviously not like 2016 anymore, obviously, but I just thought I'd make it that year for this story because it just seemed right, I don't know why it seemed right, but it did. So that's that poem, The Time Traveler. The next poem that I will read is called Timothy Walsh. Now, I know that seems like a weird title. I know I probably shouldn't call it that, but that is the name of the main character of the story, and I just did not know what else to title it, so we're going to go with that name for now. So this is the, what is it? The 4th poem. I have it written down on here, like the number of poems that I wrote down so that I don't forget. So this is the 4th poem, Timothy Walsh. My name is Timothy Walsh. Today is Monday, June 18th. I can feel the vibrations through my hands as I release a force field around me. The tall man, my foster father, charges at me in a rage, cracking his belt, ready to beat me, while my foster mother lays injured. But my foster dad can't get me, as my force field protects me. Try as he might, his every attempt to reach me fails automatically. But my force field time is limited, and as it gradually fades away, I release a burst of energy that sends my foster dad flying. He is flung through the air, slamming hard into a tree. His spine is shattered in two, killing him instantly. My foster mother watches in horror, screaming and cursing at me, to which I immediately, on impulse, spin around, then flee. I continue to run off into the fields, far, far away into the mountains. I never look back as I keep on running, frightened yet also relieved. Frightened at what I had done. I never meant to hurt him at all, and yet at the same time I am relieved that the torture and abuse has ended. I just wanted the pain to stop, and so I killed him in self-defense, and then stop running for a brief moment as I gradually catch my breath. I don't know who my real parents are, or why I was born with these powers, and while they are truly still limited, it does not matter, because now I am free. So that poem was once again called Timothy Walsh, told from the perspective of a boy named Timothy Walsh, who has psychic powers, as you may have guessed from the description in the poem. So basically, that one's also a little dark, but this next poem hopefully won't be as dark. It will hopefully be on a happier note. And that poem is called, if I could find it, The Engineer's Son. So we're going to read that, and that will be the 5th poem. So this poem is once again called The Engineer's Son. I'm awakened by the sound of lights buzzing and gears turning. The men in white surround me. I can feel my eyes burning. The men then squirt oil right into my ears, flexing every joint in my body while I hold back my tears. I do not remember at all what happened before this. All that I can recall is a crash, and that was it. I do not know what became of my mother in the car. Once we crashed, I blacked out, and now here we are. As the men in white continue, scanning me, running more tests, with wires all hooked up to me, I feel a warm hand on my chest. It is then that I realize my body is made of steel, with bionic organs and tissue run by gears, levers, and wheels. Screws and bolts attach my joints, while the men then polish me. I then look around the room and see my father smiling. He looks upon me relieved. For death we cheated and won. As I slowly sit up, confused, he says, "Welcome back, my son." So that's the 5th and final poem. I'm sorry if this video is a bit short. Well, I don't know if it's short, but it's just a kind of basic, I guess, like really basic. But that poem is called, once again, The Engineer's Son, and it's basically about a person that died and was brought back to life via cyborg or robot, I guess you could say. So, you know, these are again like 5 sci-fi poems that I wrote, and you know, I hope you enjoy them, and that's pretty much it. That's all I can say. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.